understanding God. To put labels on religion is to completely ignore the word of God. We cannot say that if you don't follow this religion, you will go to hell. That is not the word of God.
That's your opinion, yeah? Okay, fantastic. What do you know about Islam? You said you have a Muslim friend, and
I think Islam's a beautiful religion. It's very beautiful. And it's submission to God, correct? That's the translation.
Yeah, pretty much.
Submission to God. And I deeply respect it. And I think Islam is quite misunderstood. But there are some flaws here and there. I'm not going to bring up the subject of Aisha because I think it's not relevant to our conversation. But I think Islam, you take the word of God too literally. You take the word of God too literally. When I think of the word jihad in God, I think that is denying God. Why would you fight for God? God will not want us to fight for Him. Even in war, killing is still murder. And that God is against that. That is my personal opinion. I want to hear yours.
Nothing's off the table, by the way. As long as you're sincere, you're willing to listen to the answer, you can ask anything you want. Yeah, bro?
Yeah.
I'm an open book for you, yeah? Because if someone comes with the respect, I'll give the respect. As simple as that. Yeah? Before we jump into that, do you believe in God?
I believe in God. I think God is do I believe in God? I won't answer that question. It's a complicated subject. God can be in anything.
Okay, do you think there is a God?
There's something beyond us, yes. That's what I'll answer that.
In terms of where this universe and we have come from, do you believe we were created?
We have to be. We have to be.
Do you believe that that entity is something outside of the creation?
What do you mean by that?
For example, when I say creation, is all that we see in the universe subject to time, subject to space, subject to things to depend upon. Do you believe that the creator is something that is outside of the confines and the laws of nature? Or do you think it's subject to the laws of nature?
It is.
You think it is nature?
It is.
So if it's unpack that for me a little bit. Like when you say
it cannot be outside. There's nothing outside of our universe. There's only in the universe, and that is God. I believe God is the universe.
So
He's not a deity. He's not something. He's something beyond that. He's beyond our minds. We cannot think of Him. When you try to think of God, you cannot. It's impossible to think of God. So when you call God a deity, when you think of Him as He's in Jannah or heaven, he can't be, because He's everywhere. He's all around us.
let me tell you the Islamic concept of God, because like you said, Islam is misunderstood. So our concept is in chapter 112 of the Quran. Say He is God the One. Yeah, so we believe God is one. He is independent. He does not beget nor is He begotten. And the fourth point, which I think is relevant to what you're saying, is none like Him. Yeah. So where you say that it's difficult for us to imagine Him, difficult for us to know Him, etc. Well, you didn't say to know Him, you said to imagine Him and to conceptualize Him. To some degree we agree. Yeah. However, wouldn't you say that when you relegate God to the laws of nature, that is something that we can comprehend and understand? So doesn't that contradict your point?
Can you simplify that?
So when you're saying to you, God is nature, God is laws. Well, laws are something that we can quantify. Nature is something that we can understand and tabulize and correlate, make tables and, come with theories. So surely that goes against your point of God not being something that is some that we can understand.
So when you say God is beyond that of the laws of nature, what do you mean by that?
So what I mean by that is, you're dependent, I'm dependent, the grass is dependent, the sun is dependent. They're dependent on something other than itself. So philosophically the argument goes that you cannot have an infinite regress of dependent things. There has to be an end somewhere. So if we bunch the whole universe together, just conceptualize it like a blob, a giant blob. All the galaxies, stars, the moon, everything, it's a blob. It's dependent. It's dependent on its parts. It's dependent on certain, sources of energy. It's dependent. It was, started once upon a time, as a beginning. Philosophically, something that has a beginning, something that is composed of parts, something that can be any other way, we say that thing is dependent. So what we say is that philosophically, dependencies have to have an end. Otherwise, you're just dealing with infinites here. So we say, for us to even exist, there has to be an end to that chain. So philosophically, theologically, we say it's an independent being, or a necessary existence. Something that is not dependent upon the creation, something that's not dependent on the forces.
Is God and the universe separate in Islam?
Yeah, we don't believe God is part of the universe. We believe God created the universe, and this is the thing, even as human beings, when we create, like the VCR always comes to my mind, but you're probably past that. Let's just say flat screen TV. If I'm creating a flat screen TV, it doesn't mean I'm part of the flat screen TV. Do you see? Like, I'm independent of that. Yeah, the materials are there, and I've utilized the materials to create that. Similarly, God is not dependent upon the creation. The creation exists separate from God. God is not part of the creation. Otherwise, just like the creation has a beginning, has an end, it's dependent on sustenance. Therefore, it would mean that God is also now dependent as well. So if we're talking about Mother Nature, once upon a time, Mother Nature
needed something to.
Yeah, it wasn't there before. So does that mean that God had a beginning? If God has a beginning, then surely it's no longer. Do you see? So that's why we say God is outside of the creation. It's not a man. Yeah, it didn't walk amongst us doing miracles, turning water into wine. Didn't sit on the toilet and have stomach problems and stomach cramps and all of these sorts of things. We believe God transcends all of that and is somebody that has created us and maintains us, looks over us, loves us, and the likes.
I think our issue is we try to explain God a bit too much. I think the real meaning of God is he cannot be explained. I think faith, you're aware of faith, right?
Yeah.
Faith. I think faith is the hope of God. To believe in something even though we don't see it. Once we prove the existence of God, faith is completely useless. I think it's best that we don't know the true nature of God.
So here's the thing. When we talk about faith, we mean faith in the sense that we haven't seen God. Yeah? Now, how old are you?
I'm 16.
16. Okay, you're very young. Are you doing something at uni, your college? What are you studying? So I can give you examples in accordance to what you want.
I'm not going to really elaborate on that.
You don't have to. Philosophical, science-based, just point me in a direction that I can give you more examples in a certain field.
Let's say philosophy.
No, you don't have to disclose anything. From my side, I want to use examples that are going to be beneficial to you. I don't want to talk past you. Yeah. So, the philosophy of science, relies upon something called induction. Induction relies upon belief. However, when a scientific theory is formed, we don't say that it's faith. We use the word evidence. Why? Because although we may not have seen that particular thing, there's enough evidence within science to point towards that as a conclusion. For example, planet X in our solar system. They didn't see it. They said, if you look at the effects, it's the effects of a planet. Therefore, the conclusion is there must be a planet. And it was printed in the newspapers, etc. Yeah? So similarly, in religion as well, there is philosophical evidence, there's logical evidence, there's deductive evidence. All of these are evidences. However, we have not seen God. There's enough evidence for us to be content that there is a God, but the faith element is there because we will never see God, because of the point that you just mentioned. And it corroborates what Islam says, that you will never see God because then life ceases to be a test. The test is that you don't see God. There's enough evidence, Lucas, for us to conclude beyond reasonable doubt that there is a creator. For example, if you go to your house and let's just say, hopefully this day never comes, but you're living by yourself, and as soon as you enter the kitchen, there is a cup of tea there, and you've got the condensation coming off it, a nice, that typical, the smoke coming out. Will you ever conclude that that came by chance? That cup of tea came by chance? Will you conclude that it happened by itself? Will you conclude that, I'm not going to know, therefore I'm going to be content with not knowing? Or would you say, there must be a reason. Let me explore that reason. There's chances that I may not find out. Might be things that maybe I don't know, but there is a reason for this. Maybe I'm not there at the moment. That makes more sense, right? So as a 16-year-old, I'm telling you, bro, there's plenty of argumentation, but the thing is, I don't want to...
So what is our end goal? What's the end goal in this?
The end point here is, evidentially, logically, philosophically, we can prove that there is a God, that God is not part of creation, that God is not a human being, that God has revealed and connected with us through scripture. He has sent prophets, and it's important for us to succeed in this world and in the hereafter, that we adhere to the teachings of God. Otherwise, tomorrow, my bro, you're going to be somebody that if you believe that, anything that's remotely challenging or abstract, you just put it to the side. Then you're going to have people that are going to tell you a man is a woman and a woman is a man. That they're going to tell you that if you are killing babies in the thousands, that's self-defense.
Will you leave that out of the conversation?
I'm giving you examples, that's why I haven't mentioned certain names. But the point that I'm trying to say is people are going to be able to gaslight you if you don't have a moral compass. And in order for you to have a moral compass, it's important for you to look into theology and religion. Which is what I'm saying. And just because you may think it's difficult to understand doesn't mean that there isn't a sufficient, a principle of sufficient reason, or there isn't an inference to the best explanation. These are all philosophical and scientific terms, by the way. That's acceptable in those fields. However, when it comes to religion, we get very lazy. We say, just because it's an abstract being that we don't really know much about, therefore, it's like we shouldn't think that we will ever know, or this or that. I think that's a very lazy approach. We don't do that for philosophy. We don't do that for science. Once upon a time, bro, the word atom comes from the word indivisible. Today we know atom is not only divisible, but it's composed of so many different parts. The more we look into it, the more we know about it. But the irony is, it comes from the word indivisible.
Do you believe in a single true religion?
Yes.
Why is it?
From the reason that I just said, that it's reasonable, it's logical, it can be proved through history, and hopefully when we unpack that through the conversation, you will see why. It's not that our theologies and our histories don't overlap. Like, we do believe that Islam overlaps with Christianity and overlaps with Judaism and overlaps with other philosophies and theologies because of their history, not because of other things, but because of their histories. Like, once upon a time, like Christians believe in Jesus. We also believe that Jesus was there once upon a time and he had a book that was revealed to him. Jews believe in Moses. As Muslims, we believe that. We believe that there were other prophets that we don't even know the names of, and we're open to that. Islam is more inclusive and open than a person may think. But with Islam, we say that if something comes from God and it's for everybody, then surely it should be explicable to a certain degree. That's what we're saying. The logical, rational person, because logic and rationality is something that's present in everybody to some degree. Even when it comes to your inclination towards God, this is something that's in everybody as well. Justin Barrett of Oxford University, you probably know that study as well, that he concludes that we all have an innate disposition to believing in a God. So that means that this is something that's innate within us, just like it's innate within us to go to the toilet, to survive, or to suckle.
It is part of us. It is
Yeah,
part of us to
baby,
believe,
yeah.
To believe in something beyond us.
Yeah, and
For some, it may be science. For some, it may be God.
yeah. Yeah, so for somebody you said it's?
For some, it may be science. For some, it may be God. There's no-
Science is a mode of discovery.
But some people will take science too far. They will take science as their God.
Anybody that has basic understanding of philosophy of science wouldn't go to that degree. We can throw names about. I don't mind.
We will leave names out.
Yeah, I mean names in the sense that names that atheists accept, like Charles Darwin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like Charles Darwin.
How do you explain evolution?
Remember all of these points, bro. I really want to answer them. Yeah, but let's keep a tartib and order. So let's stick with God for now, yeah? So where are you with God? Do you want me to unpack our argument for God a bit more, or like point me towards a certain direction? Because again, I don't want to talk fast.
simply believe in God.
Okay, good.
Something.
Okay. So I'll tell you what we believe, and you tell me how much you are in line with that, and what you disagree with. We believe that God is independent of creation. Reason being, if he is part of creation, then he is subject to the laws of creation. That means he is dependent on something other than itself. That means that he or it comes from that thing. We believe God is the end of that chain. Everything emerges from God, and God is not slave or dependent upon laws, upon the things that we see around us. So independent. Are you with me with that? Independent.
Independent from everything.
Independent from everything. He does not beget nor is he begotten. Well, noisy begotten comes with independence, but he does not beget, meaning doesn't have a son, doesn't have a daughter, because then there would be godlings and gods. For example, if you look within Hinduism, they believe, technically speaking, all of their gods coalesce into one. However, because of goddesses and godlings, some people give more preference and priority to certain godlings and goddesses than the one true God. It leads to confusion, and if you have two forms of gods, there will be a conflict of wills. So logically and rationally, because God is the creator of all, his will remains dominant over everything, so it makes sense that there are no multiple gods. With me with premise 2? Fantastic. We also believe that, again, God is unlike anything, because whatever you see around you is all dependent. God is independent. We're unaware of the independent, therefore that also makes sense as well. That's pretty much our definition of God, what I've explained to you.
I wouldn't say yes or no.
But you're with me so far with those things.
I understand.
Just from an observation point of view, I'm just pointing out that we are together with our belief system at this moment in time. Thereafter, if we were to say that God is wise, yeah, he's intelligent and he's wise, you accept that, right? He's intelligent and he's wise. Make sense? If you want to challenge that, I'm open, bro.
No, I'm not denying it.
Yeah. I'd rather if you did. Reason being, and here's the thing. One thing I liked about you was you were open, and that's why I don't mind this conversation could go on as long as you want. Yeah? I want you to leave with something. I'm not here to pin you down. I'm not here for a got you moment. You noticed? It's easy to do that. And you can probably tell from my tone and my form of argumentation, I'm not here for that, yeah? I want you to leave with something. If you feel you're uncomfortable, you can just walk away, yeah? But I don't want you to sit on the fence here and I'm speaking for a long time and you disagree with something. I'd rather you jumped in and we tussle a little bit and then I convince you. Yeah, go ahead.
it's not that I don't believe in God or I do believe in God. I simply won't answer it because to me it's too complicated, even for us humans. Maybe some people will try to find a way to explain it, but in my opinion, I think God is unexplainable, and I think it's best he should be kept that way.
Isn't that a lazy way of going through life? Do you do that with anything else?
What do you mean?
Like with any other facet of life, do you say it can't be explained, therefore we should just leave it that way? Do you see? I think this is a form of social conditioning, yeah, where they tell us that, I'm not saying you don't be offended. I'm saying when it comes to everything else, when it comes to life on Mars, when it comes to life on Andromeda, when it comes to aliens creating stuff, everything's on the table. However, when it comes to God, the way society functions and promotes as materialism, capitalism, that sort of mentality is to keep us lacking, to keep us enslaved. And once we resort to something that transcends all this, we become problematic for the powers that be. And that's why I say, bro, that God is there, God can be proven, God is explicable. Even us having a 10-minute conversation, we are already in agreement of our definition of God so far. So this already proves that there is
There must be something.
do you see what I'm saying? Like, if 10 minutes, bro, is enough for us to say, you know what, logically, that makes sense. I'm telling you, bro, the more we unravel this, the more you'll see, yes, it continues to make sense. Like, you also don't believe that you came by chance, by nothing. You believe you were created. And when you look at yourself, like if I was to pull out the phone, yeah, you believe that the phone is created. You believe that the mic is created. You believe that the camera is created. You believe you're created. So if you look at how complex you are,
There has to be something beyond us.
yeah, so the point that I'm trying to say is to link back to the point that that thing needs to be intelligent as well. Yeah, I didn't go on a tangent. There has to be like a phone. The phone, no one sees this phone and goes, man, this was there for a long period of time and laws of nature created this, that. This phone has ROM. ROM is long-term memory. It has a CPU, which is the brain. It has RAM, short-term memory. It has a display, which is like the eyes. It has a battery, like energy source, like food. We conclude someone made it. I don't know if you saw the unveiling of the Tesla robots. No one said, whoa, this happened over thousands of years. Inexplicable. Elon Musk came and said, I created it. No, it's not convincing. Bro, it looks designed. If it sounds like a duck, if it moves like a duck, if it looks like a duck, it's a duck. So similarly, human beings, when you look at us, we're complex. We have, like the phone, long-term memory, short-term memory, a brain. Yeah, we have eyes, display, similar to a display on a phone. We have an energy source, food, stomach, digestion. But yet we think, oh, you know what? I don't know how it happened, it just happened. No, there's a reason. We've been created, and you want to jump in there?
So the subject of consciousness, how can we think? That could be an example of God, you know. Like, how can we think, let's say like a dog cannot? Obviously a dog can think, but we are capable of doing many things.
There's a philosophical paper written by somebody called Thomas Nagel, who says that we don't know how bats think. In other words, as human beings, we will never know. Yeah? We will never know how bats think. So we will never know if that dog or that donkey, talking of donkey, or horse, we don't know how it means to be a horse. We do know how it means. See why I use the word donkey. So the thing is that we don't know how it feels to be those creatures. Yeah, but those creatures are sentient. Those creatures display certain behaviors through which we conclude certain things. However, for us to even go into that realm, before we need to understand and fix our own home first, which is like this, like what are we doing here? So as a human being, my bro, when you look at our intricacy, the inference to the best explanation is, if I look at this and how amazing it is, the heart beats and it continues beating for at least 70 years. We don't expect it to stop. But when you get a Toyota car, even though it's fantastic and brilliant, you don't expect it to work for 50, 60 years. You expect it to break down. So when it comes to every other form of creation, we expect it to have a short kind of span. Sorry? Yeah, that's what I'm saying, bro, that it's all people say there's no science, but Ibn Taymiyyah was asked, one scholar was asked, like, prove that there is a God. And he let off a chuckle and he said, how are you asking me for proof when everything around you is proof of a God? Just looking at how a bird stays in flight, look at how a bewick swan has the migratory instinct to go to certain places. Look how the snake is able to survive without legs, and how its sight isn't even that good, but just its mere faculty of tasting the air is able to, help its survival. How if you go in the depths of the oceans, you notice that it gets darker and darker. However, there are certain fish that have lights dangling off their heads. To say that it's chance, to say that it doesn't point towards a creator or a designer, when everything around us points towards a creator and a designer, I think it's doing a great injustice to God. And I think when certain people say that, you know what, it's not worth even speaking, or we can't get to that, I think that further exacerbates the problem. Because the more we talk about what's around us and the design of the things that are around us, how the giraffe will have such a long neck, and how physiologically anytime the giraffe looks down, its head's supposed to just pop. But the blood pressure control system in the brain of a giraffe has been designed in such a way that we are able to witness a giraffe without it going crazy each time it bends down. You know what I mean? So, and similarly as human beings, bro, just marveling at us and at our cell. Every cell in your body is an entire city in itself, with a nucleus, with rough endoplasmic reticulum. They're like factories. Then you've got lysosomes there. Then you've got the cell membrane, which is like the border force that protects each cell, and each cell knows what to do. And that.
I was speaking the concepts of, let's imagine I'm a scientist. I was speaking so. Let's imagine I'm a scientist. I'm telling you, but there's a reason the cells are born for this, because of the. How would you answer that? How would you?
So scientists, because I've spoken to many and I've been privy to a lot of their works, science can only explain the how, never the why. For example, you enter that room, that same kitchen, and there's a birthday cake. Sorry, not a birthday cake, that gives it away. There's a lasagna. You love lasagna, let's just say. And you invite your scientist friend and you say, come along, John, prove to me using science why that was made. He will get out his microscope and he will get out his chemicals and he will say it was an exothermic reaction and there's this chemical, that chemical. You say, John, you're telling me what it is. You're telling me how it was made. My question to you was, why was it made? Why is it there? They can try and try and try, they will never do so. Because science explains the how, not the why. Yeah? So similarly, when you see all of these things that happen around us, you asked about evolution and Big Bang, we say no problem. Evolution and Big Bang are mechanisms. They explain how things work. They don't explain why. God is a creator of mechanisms. We didn't say God is a mechanism. There is no conflict between religion and science. Yeah? The religion and science are talking and answering different questions. Like as Muslims, I can give you the history where when you get a chance when you go home, you can Google the scientific method. Ibn al-Haytham, according to a BBC article, was the creator of the scientific method. Yeah, even when you look at scientific inquiry, the first hospital, the first university, Fatima al-Fihri, the first solo flyer, Abbas ibn Firnas. We have no issues with science, but science doesn't go past the physical. And this is the problem with science. Like, you went into consciousness. Consciousness is metaphysics. And this is a problem that science has, because if both of us, you and me, we watch a horror movie, we will both react in a different way. Our experience is not something that's physical. If you were to open our heads, you will not see and be able to explain why both of us view horror movies differently. That comes from the metaphysical consciousness. And that's, in science, is called the hard problem of consciousness. People are doing PhDs on this sort of stuff. Yeah? So that's the problem. When you give too much to science, then there are certain things that science will start saying, yeah, atom is indivisible. No, but you can divide it. Oh, there's certain DNA that we don't know. They arrogantly call it junk DNA. However, now we know that it switches on and off genes. So they're like, no, it's not junk DNA. Similar with consciousness. No, consciousness is not important. But bro, it's very important. Like, you can't check this in scans. Can't open the head and see, aha, there's the horror movie there. Oh, that's the nightmare that he had on Elm Street or wherever it is. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying, bro, that coming back to originally to the point, this is why I concluded God has to be intelligent and he has to be wise. And a product of that wisdom is not for us or for God to create something and just leave it. For example, if I created something and I'm Elon Musk, I created something. Somebody asks me, why did you create this as Elon Musk? I go, sorry, Mr. Genius, you're going to go to Mars and this. Why did you create this? What is it? Why? Like, what you got planning to do with it? I told you. The whole genius thing will start going down a notch each time he makes that weird noise. You know what I mean? So part of wisdom is creating something with a purpose. So if we believe that God is intelligent and as a result he's wise because of the complexity that we see in creation, that automatically assumes that he has to be wise, that's created us for a purpose. Yeah, creating things with no purpose is not befitting of a wise and intelligent being. That's why we say God is wise, he's intelligent, and I add that on to that. Now the next point would be, why has God, how will he bridge that gap without showing himself to us? If he just tells one person, that one person, when he narrates it to somebody else, can misquote it, he could die, he could become ill, we're all at the mercy of that individual. Books, since day one, have been something that transcend communities, that transcend cultures. No matter how digitized things become, books will always be there. Yeah, and that's something that, like a tablet, when you put it underground, it becomes fossilized. It's not guaranteed to work 2,000 years into the future. A book, you can still carbon date it and check it. So books logically make sense for a medium of God trying to reach out to us. Now the next question, Lucas, would be that there are so many different options. Which book logically is befitting of God? And I would tell you, there are certain things that you and I can off the bat agree with straight away. Which is that if a book claims to be from God, surely number one, there has to be a claim in the book that it's from God. You know what I mean? Like if I'm writing a book, I say, oh, this is a cookery book. So people say, okay. I say, I've authored the book. Okay. So what is the book? What's the author of the book? And number three, Lucas, you have to be able to say that this book is the same book today that it was since the beginning of time. Yeah? So if people are saying, no, the book's changed, then it's not really from God, is it? Because the difference is, it's a book of God and people now, not just of God. So this is what we say, Lucas. We say that the Quran, compared to the scriptures of the other faiths, Quran is the only one
switching the conversation. I do not want to talk about which religion is true and which
No problem, no problem.
because that's when it becomes that's when it turns into division, and that's what I don't want to do.
But don't you think it can only lead to division if a person sees it that way? I'll give you an example. Me presenting the case for Islam about why in certain fields, I would argue in all fields, it's ahead or it's superior compared to the criteria of other religions. That's something that can objectively be measured. Someone can disagree with that. We can have a conversation, we can shake hands, and we can be on our ways. But just to merely evidence one stance, I don't think that causes division. In fact, the Quran tells us, tell the others, come to common terms between us and you, that we believe in none but Allah, and then it goes on. So in other words, we're told to engage in discussion and debate. When you're going to be, like, you're 16, bro, when you're going to be in like friendships and inshallah, God willing, you get married, don't think of it like this, that just because you guys disagree on something, you shouldn't talk about it. That's called escapism. To come up with ideas and to really extract the juice of life, you have to be okay with pressing a few buttons, but do it respectfully. That's my advice to you, humble advice to you, because I'm somebody that obviously, these grey hairs, they didn't just turn grey under the sun. I've come with experience, and certain people, you can disagree, but you can still be friends. So somebody, don't feel that, no, this is going to cause division, I don't want to go into that. Be okay with that, but as long as it's done respectfully. That's the criteria that I would humbly suggest. But is there any others? Because you had many other points.
I think I'll save it for another day.
Yeah? What are your thoughts so far with what I've said? Do you want to push back on some things? Or?
I mean, I'm just here to learn, and what you've said is really eye-opening.
Yeah?
I've learned a lot.
Fantastic, bro. As always, I'll try to be here Sundays. If you ever want to come and you want to progress in this conversation, I would just leave you with this final point, bro. That, like I said, the inference to the best explanation, the most probable logical cause is that we have been created. We haven't just been left here. We're not abandoned. As a result, we do have a moral compass which can be derived from a book that makes logical sense, that can be tested under scrutiny, that doesn't have contradictions, that doesn't have illogical presuppositions like books of other faiths, and we can evidence that. And if you ask me for evidence, I can present that evidence. And once you do that, you will attain and you will have more direction in life. Without that, you can be a good person, but without a map, it's very difficult for you to reach your destination. It's going to be a lot of trial and error. You're going to hurt yourself along the way. You might go veer off, get tired, lose supplies. Islam provides a map. Makes it easier for you to reach your destination, and it helps you understand life and navigate through life. That's why I urge you, don't dismiss religion and these sorts of discussions. Don't think that it's unachievable. Nothing is unachievable. Yeah, if there is a God, He will have put breadcrumbs there for us to get to Him. He's not somebody that has just left us and made it impossible, because that's not an intelligent and a wise God. Certainly not a God that we believe in, that will just abandon us and leave us. Nuclear warfare, atom bombs being dropped, babies being killed, and it's difficult for us to get to Him. Seems ridiculous. My friend, Lucas, pleasure, my brother. Take it easy. Let me just take the mic, yeah? Thanks, brother. Take it easy. Welcome salam. How are you, right? Alhamdulillah. How are you? Nice to meet you too. Uncle, कैसा चल रहा है वो यहूद इधर थे वो
यहूद मिले
कैसे थे?
कब सब मारी उन्होंने मेरे
अच्छा?
बच्चे यंग एज बच्चे थे तो लेकिन ये जरा भागते हैं मैंने ट्राई टू ब्रिंग बट नो दे डोंट वांट नो अच्छा इट्स ऑलराइट एटलीस्ट मेरे साथ अच्छी बातें कर लेते हैं
अच्छा
हाँ मेरे साथ पर पोलाइट रहते हैं अच्छे रहते हैं
अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह
माशाल्लाह
bro, this is ours, isn't it?